GTM Podcast 38 Blessing of Life Blessing 9 Be Well Trained in Discipline Part 2. Hello everyone, you are listening to GTM Podcast. We have come so far reaching Blessing 9 and I hope you enjoy this podcast so far. Our topic today, the definitions of be well trained in discipline or artfulness in usage. The root of the Pali word for artfulness in usage or discipline is vinaya, comes from two stems, vi and ne. Ne means something that leads you. Vi can mean any of three things, good, revealed, or different. Thus, in compound, the definition of the word vinaya means leads you to good, or leads you to brightness, or leads you to something different. Leading one to goodness means that it takes you away from evil. Leading one to revelation means that it allows us to see a person as they really are. Leading one to be different means that it raises one above people in general. The actual meaning of the word is rules or regulations to restrain ourselves in body and word to avoid causing suffering to ourselves or others. Notice that vinaya doesn't restrain the mind directly, but in effect, it has a positive effect on the mind too, because bodily action and speech originate in the mind. When we can avoid causing suffering to ourselves or others, we set ourselves on the path to goodness, revelation, and difference from others in general. Vinaya will be the virtue that tells us what is appropriate and inappropriate to do or say or look at or eat. Definitions of self-discipline. When people think of precepts, they often mistakenly think that precepts are nothing more than prohibitions. In fact, the meaning of Pali word for precepts, which is sila, means the norm or cooling. Precepts mean the level of virtue that is normal for human beings to have. It is a norm that distinguishes men from savage or from animals. It is for this reason that we differentiate vinaya from sila by calling the latter self-discipline. As we shall see, self-discipline is the result of training yourself in discipline. It is a state of mind rather than a set of rules to follow. The difference between discipline and self-discipline. Discipline is the means by which we restrain the manifestation of unwholesome actions and speech. When one is new to discipline, the mind is usually still reluctant. Many thoughts will go through the mind to protest at the inconvenience of behaving in a disciplined way. Such thoughts do not constitute a breach of discipline because they are not manifest. Apart from protecting the practitioner from degradation of behavior into any of the four defilements of action. Discipline will gradually channel the mind into development of self-discipline. Self-discipline is the attainment of restraint of unwholesome thought as well as unwholesome action and speech. At this point, there is no further reluctance in the mind anymore. One has managed to be a teacher to oneself, sufficiently well to be able to police one's body, speech, and mind without the need for any further rules or regulations to force such behaviors. Different types of discipline. There are different sets of codes of conduct which can be used for training in discipline. Some are suitable for lay people. Others are suitable for monks. They work on the principle of limitation. Because, as Kierkegaard wrote in Ether or A Fragment of Life, Part 1, the more a person limits themselves, the more resourceful he becomes. In Buddhism, it is not by arbitrary rules that we limit ourselves. We choose rules that also ensure protection of human dignity of ourselves, others, and society. But it is true that the more intensive the level of practice, the more rules of training we tend to keep. Discipline for householder or family person. The 5 precepts. The 5 precepts are the basic set of discipline advocate for every Buddhist. The 5 precepts are much older than Buddhism, but were adopted by Buddhism amongst many other religions as the core practice for moral conduct. Elements of the same principles are found in 10 Commandments, Islamic law, and even Hindu practice. This is because the 5 precepts protect against a person taking advantage of the weakness of himself and others. There is nothing that people love more than their own life, their possessions, their spouse and trust. There is nothing that disables people more than the loss of their own clear conscience. These 5 weaknesses in human relationships are guarded by the 5 precepts. Such weaknesses are not exclusive to Buddhists, but apply for all people in the world. Therefore, the 5 precepts are the fundamental bedrock for all morality. The precepts themselves consist of 5 rules of training. 1. Not to kill living beings. 2. Not to steal. 3. Not to commit adultery. 4. Not to tell lies. 5. Not knowingly to drink alcohol or consume intoxicants. By keeping the 5 precepts, people can ensure harmony for society and also prevent many of the roots of suffering. The precept brings coolness to the mind and body. There is no burning caused by suffering in body and mind as the result. The 5 precepts share the same Pali word, Panchasila, as the 5 principles upon which Sukarno founded the Indonesian constitution. But don't go thinking that Indonesian law is founded on Buddhist principles, because on closer examination, the 5 basic principles of the Indonesian constitution turn out to be something else completely. The 5 precepts are intended to be kept by Buddhist householders on a daily basis. The 8 precepts. The 8 precepts are a set of rules of training which expand on the 5 precepts with adjustment of the 3rd and 5th precepts, and additional of the 6th, 7th, and 8th. The precepts themselves consist of 8 rules of training. 1. Not to kill living beings. 2. Not to steal. 3. Not to be uncelibate. 4. Not to tell lies. 5. Not to drink alcohol or consume intoxicants. 6. Not to take meals between midday and dawn. 7. Not to indulge in romantic entertainment or immodesty. 8. Not to be indulgent in one's sleeping habits. They are intended to be kept by Buddhist householders during times of intensified training, especially on meditation retreats or for self-purification on a periodic basis, such as 1 or twice a week. 8 precepts is sometimes called Uposatha Sila, where the 8 precepts are kept for 3 days before, during, and after one of the quarter moon days. The only real difference is the length of time one expects to keep them. The content is the same, but for Uposatha Sila, usually one will only keep them on the full moon days, with the possibility of 1 day before for preparation and 1 day after for debriefing. For 8 precepts, the length of time the precepts are kept has no special duration. Discipline for monastic. 10 precepts. The 10 precepts are a set of rules of training which expand the 8 precepts with adjustment of the 7 precepts and addition of the 10. The precepts themselves consist of 10 rules of training. 1. Not to kill living beings. 2. Not to steal. 3. Not to be uncelibate. 4. Not to tell lies. 5. Not to drink alcohol or consume intoxicants. 6. Not to take meals between midday and dawn. 7. Not to indulge in romantic entertainment. 8. Not to indulge in immodesty. 9. Not to be indulgent in one's sleeping habits. 10. Not to handle gold or silver. They are intended to be kept by Buddhist novices on a daily basis. (227 precepts). As Buddhists train themselves as lay people and as monks, Buddhist spiritual discipline can be divided into 2 parts accordingly: discipline for the homeless and discipline for the householder. The monks have special discipline in keeping with their aim to reach an end of defilements within the shortest possible time. For the monastic community, eradication of defilements in the mind is intensive, so the self-discipline of monastics is intensive accordingly. The 227 precepts are a set of rules of training which expand on the 10 precepts. They are intended to be kept by fully ordained Buddhist monks on a daily basis. That's everyone. Today we learned about the self-discipline and discipline and the precepts that we ought to aim and practice for the improvement of our spirituality and our daily life, and practice of meditation as well. We continue in the next episode, discipline. practical considerations. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. We hope to see you again next time.